Good morning, students. Once again, I welcome you all for today's lecture. I hope you have revised the previous poem which I taught you. Poem number 1.1. Yes, don't give up. Before starting our today's video, I request you all to keep ready your textbook and pencil. Write the meanings which I will be explaining to you. Also underline the difficult words and copy it in your notebook. So let us study the second topic of English, that is, who's the greatest. In this lesson, we will be studying two different stories of Emperor Akbar and Birbal. You may have heard many stories of Emperor Akbar and Birbal. In this lesson also, you will enjoy two such interesting stories of Akbar and Birbal. So, here we go. Lesson number 1.2. Who's the greatest? Emperor Akbar or Akbar the Great is known as one of the greatest rulers in the world, not just because he had a vast empire, a very strong army, untold wealth, but because he was a good human being. He cared for his subjects. He had a great respect for scholars, writers, poets, and artists belonging to different religions. He was a great patron of art and culture. Now, we all have heard about great Emperor Akbar. Emperor means the great king. Emperor Akbar is considered as one of the greatest ruler in the world, not just because he is having a very big empire or very big army or a lot of wealth, but he is considered as a great emperor because he was a very good human being. He was very loving and caring. He always cared for his people living in his kingdom. Here, untold wealth means having a lot of wealth, and subjects means people. Emperor Akbar used to give a lot of respect to all the clever people like scholars, writers, poets, artists who were living in his kingdom. Here, what is the meaning of patron? Patron means a person who encourages and appreciates art and culture. The 9 gems or Navratnas in his court were famous. Many people believe that of these 9 gems, Birbal was the closest to the emperor's heart. Akbar loved to pose interesting questions or problems in his court, and Birbal never failed to come up with an equally interesting answers. 9 gems or Navratnas means very precious. Now here 9 gems means his famous ministers present in the court. These 9 gems were very famous, and from these 9 gems, Birbal was one of the closest to emperor's heart. Every time Akbar used to pose any questions or problems in the court, and Birbal always came up with interesting answers and solutions. We don't know whether all the Akbar and Birbal stories that we hear today have any basis in history. They have been handed down over generations, mainly by word of mouth. Here are 2 of them. Now see students, if we see from last so many years, from our forefathers, grandparents, our parents, we have heard many stories related to Akbar and Birbal. These stories were carried out from one generation to other generation only by word of mouth. It means orally. in a spoken vein. So let us study the first interesting story. One day, the emperor entered the court with a very serious expression on his face. As soon as he was seated, he said, I have a question for all of you. What should be the punishment for someone who pulls my mustache? So, one fine day, Emperor Akbar entered the court in a very serious mood, means very angrily. And as soon as he sat down on his throne, Emperor Akbar asked the question to all his courtiers. The question was that, what should be the punishment for someone who pulls my mustache? Here, Akbar wanted to say that, who will dare and have the courage to pull my mustache? The court was stunned. Pull the emperor's mustache? It was unheard of. This means that it was never heard before. Who will dare to pull the mustache of emperor? Here, stunned meaning shocked or surprised. Flog him, give him 50 lashes of the whip, exclaimed one nobleman. That's not enough. Put him in jail without food and water, said another. Whip him, beat him, hang him, cut off his offending hands. The agitated courtiers began to cry out. Only Birbal was silent. He was even smiling a little. Now all the courtiers in the court became very angry and they started shouting, what should be the punishment for this offender? So one nobleman said that, flog him. Flog means beat him. Give him 50 lashes. Beat him 50 times with a rod. And in this way, one after the other, all the courtiers began to shout. They said, whip him, beat him, hang him, cut off his offending hands. Who has done this serious mistake? They became very angry. And one after the other, all the courtiers began to shout with anger. And while all these courtiers were shouting, only Birbal was silent and smiling and sitting in one of the corner of the court. He kept calm, but he didn't say a single word from his mouth. What do you say, Birbal? What is your opinion? Now, Emperor Akbar asked Birbal, what is your opinion regarding this incident of pulling my mustache? So, here Birbal is saying that, in my opinion, O giver of peace to the world, the offender should be given his favorite sweetmeats. So here Birbal is answering that in a very polite and soft tone. Birbal is telling to emperor that the offender should be given his favorite sweetmeats. Sweetmeats means his favorite sweets instead of giving him the punishment. Raja Birbal, are you out of your mind? Give him sweetmeats for such a grave offence. The courtiers began to say. Birbal smiled and offered an explanation. Yes, who would be so bold as to pull the emperor's mustache? Only his own grandson. So here, when Birbal said that he should be given his favorite sweetmeats, all the courtiers began to shout and protested against Birbal. That Raja Birbal, are you gone mad? You are saying to give sweets to the offender who has done this grave mistake. Grave means serious. So this offender has done a serious mistake and you are telling to give him the sweets. The courtiers started raising their voice. They were all surprised. Now Birbal smiled and offered an explanation. Yes, who will be so bold as to pull the emperor's mustache? Only his own grandson.
When Akbar heard this, he burst out laughing because that is exactly what had happened in the morning. Hope you have understood this story.